Yellow. Okay, spelling words this week. I'm going to go through the words here rather than the PowerPoint, because this has also got on it the commonly misspelled words. Okay, so what you can see is the suffix is full, F-U-L, and I'm sure that you can pick out, think of lots of words that we haven't got here that end in F-U-L. So I'll run through the list, and then I'll do the three colours, and then we'll look at the commonly misspelled. I noticed last week that most people did green. So let's see some people challenging themselves. I think maybe you're not challenging yourselves as hard as you would if we were in school. So it's good to keep up a little bit of effort, even although we're not in school. So let's look at the green words first. Helpful, hurtful, joyful, painful, hateful, harmful, pitiful, useful, hopeful, careful. These words ending in full are all adjectives. They describe, a lot of them are describing feelings, but if it ends in full, it's an adjective. Okay, let's look at orange. Cheerful, thankful, tearful, shameful, spiteful, wonderful, dutiful, fanciful, dreadful, sorrowful. Now, if we look at 7 and 8, dutiful and fanciful, these come from duty and fancy, and duty and fancy both end in a Y, and notice, like so many of the others that we have looked at before, we've taken away the Y and replaced it with an I. Okay, so that's something to remember. We're taking off the Y and adding an I, and then the F-U-L, the full. Okay, and finally our red words. Colourful, merciful, there's that Y to I again. Doubtful, beautiful, and beautiful is the same. That comes from beauty, and the Y is taken out and is replaced with an I. Beautiful, deceitful, that's going to be a tricky one. It's E-I. It's a soft C, then E-I, deceitful, thoughtful, resourceful, distasteful. That comes from taste. It's got the prefix dis and then the suffix full. Disgraceful, it's the same. It comes from grace. It's got a prefix of dis and a suffix of full. And there is the word graceful. I'm sure you know that word. I'm not certain whether or not tasteful. Yes, tasteful is a word. Tasteful. And then successful. Successful is a word that we've spent some time on. It's got a hard C and a soft C. S-U-C, suck. S-U-C, then C-E-S-S, cess, success. Can be broken down like that. Okay, now, really, all of these words are fairly short words with F-U-L added on to the end. Okay, so when you're thinking about the words, break it down into those parts. The only spelling difference between the root word and the full word with full at the end is the Y to I. Everything else is the same. Colourful is C-O-L-O-U-R. That's exactly the same colour. Deceit, although deceit is quite a tricky word in itself, the spelling of it doesn't change. Thought doesn't change. Okay, so all we're doing to these words is just adding our FUL. Okay, let's look at the tricky words at the bottom. Knowledge. Knowledge comes from know. Okay, although we pronounce it differently, we pronounce the no differently when it's knowledge. It is the same spelling. And then we're just adding ledge, L-E-D-G-E. Okay, the thing to remember there is it's D-G. I think quite often people forget that D, but it's L-E-D-G-E. Okay, laboratory, I think, is a word that's come up before, maybe with our O-R-Y endings. Basically, laboratory comes from the word labour, although it is spelt differently. The U is missing, and laboratory, it's an O-R-Y. Okay, it's an O-R-Y. I think that's going to be your trickiest one, to be honest. Length. The thing to remember about length is, I think when we end a word with a G and an H, we want to put them together. But in this word length, there's a T in between. So length, the first part, the leng, comes from long. It's almost as if over time people have mispronounced long to make leng. So if you think about it like that, and then just add your TH, the way you would do for the word fourth, for example, fifth, well, that's not a good example because you're completely changing it, but sixth, seventh, we're just adding THs to the end. That's the way to think about length, as if it's long with the suffix th. Okay, lesson is not too tricky. Double S in the middle. O-N. Believe it or not, there is a word lesson, E-N. Lesson with O-N is a lesson in school, but with an E-N, it's to make something less. For example, if you had a sore leg and you took some painkillers, you would say, my painkillers lessen the pain. Well, that's a different word. It's a different spelling. So that O-N is really important. Okay, it's O-N meaning a lesson in school. Okay, a lesson like this right now. And the last one, library, that is one that has come up before with our ARY endings. Library is a very commonly misspelt word, and I mentioned before, it's not a berry, it's not like a strawberry or a raspberry, a library, it's not that, it's a library. There are two R's there, it's not a double R, they're separated by the A, and it's an ARY word from when we were doing ARY a few weeks back. Okay, so laboratory and library, I think, are going to be your two most difficult ones there. You might see it differently, but those are two that we have had before, obviously depending on which words you picked. I think they were probably both red because they are tricky words. Okay, we'll be back on Friday for our spelling test. I'm hoping there'll be more oranges and reds this week. Yes, challenge yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.